Alrighty, so we got one more game left tonight in the CONCACAF Champions Cup in terms of the first round of the second leg between the Vancouver Whitecaps and Saprissa. But before that, I have to do the review of last night's game because since the last game didn't finish until 9:30 my time, it was just way too late for me to do the review of the free games that happened yesterday. But alas, looking at the three games that happened yesterday, all of them involving MLS team. Well, unfortunately, we did see the first MLS team getting knocked out in this competition, and we probably also saw a big upset that involved that MLS team that got knocked out in this competition. But before we get to it, let's talk about the first game between FC Cincinnati versus Montegra. Now, obviously, from what we saw yesterday, two of these three games are pretty much all decided in the first leg. This was one of it. Cincinnati had a big lead heading into this one against Montegra, and it's understandable that they didn't really play their strongest team, and pretty much by the second half, they were pretty much putting all their kits into this game, resting the team for this weekend's matchup, and hence that's why the game ended 1-1, despite the fact that Cincy did had a couple of chances to win this game as well. Though that being said, in the third minute, the first shot of the game did see Adon puts it way wide from long range. But then the first shot from Montegra is in the back of the net, and it's Azumendi again. He scored in the last game against Cincinnati in the first leg. He scored again here from Nunez to give Montegra a 1-0 lead. And again, just the first shot from Montegra, not great defending whatsoever from Cincinnati. Whatsoever. Denke did look to answer, but he dribbled that one wide as Cincinnati had majority of the possession early, but they weren't really creating much, at least in the final third. Now, keep in mind, up to this point, the aggregate score was 4-2. It still would take something miraculous from Montegra and just an incredible collapse that Cincinnati would had in them to blow this lead. But you definitely don't want to concede a goal so early in a game like this, and that the good news for Cincinnati, they eventually did get the equalizer relatively quickly because after Evander hits at Y as the flag went up in the 19th minute, guess who? It's Kevin Dinky. He's going to be a problem not only in this competition, but it is going to be a problem in MLS as well. And something tells me he's going to be going at it for the Golden Boot race. I mean, between him and Latte Laugh, those are two guys that I'm definitely going to be keeping an eye on. Who's potentially maybe be the favorite of winning the Golden Boot this year. But he scored here from Bear to tied the game up at one apiece. Evander did look for another and the lead for Cincinnati in this game, but he missed high there. And I thought Cincinnati was rolling up to this point. They were pressing for another goal, just like what we saw in the last game when they were really rolling in the second half. Lacona then denied Bear from close range before Lauro denied Castellanos from the corner. So Lauro, of course, getting the start in this one instead of Saltano. Again, Cincinnati was pretty much resting a lot of their player. And by the time when we get to the second half, pretty much Cincinnati was putting their second team and putting their kits in the game because this two-legged affair is pretty much all but over. Though Lacona did deny Kubo from close in the 49th minute before Kubo just puts it wide on the curling free kick. Martinez would then absolutely blast one into Kentucky for Montegra. The shots were 8-5 for Cincinnati at this point at the hour mark. Lauro would then tip Mejia shot over from long range, and then Chirilla puts it wide from close in the 65th. There was a shout for a penalty for Cincinnati not given in the 70th. Then there was a shout for a penalty for Montegra that was not given in the 76th. Bear would then puts one into the stands, and again, despite the fact that the two-leg affair is being decided, Cincinnati was still pressing hard to try to win this game, and it makes sense because a lot of these guys that are playing here in the second half, they're pretty much like fringe players. They definitely are trying to impress Pat Nolan and maybe even getting some game time in the future as well. But alas, the game ended 1-1 between both of these teams. Overall aggregate score 5-2 in favor of Cincinnati. The shots in this one, 13 shots for the 8 that Montegra has, 4 shots on goal for the 3 that Cincinnati had, 6 shots off target for the 3 that Montegra has, 4 shots that was blocked for the 1 that Montegra has, and possession-wise, 65% possession compared to 35% possession that Montegra has in this game. So, everybody expected Cincinnati to move on to the next round, and that's exactly what they do. But now the next round is going to get even much tougher because now, as we mentioned with Cincinnati, and the reason why I didn't really put them that high in the rankings in terms of the most likely MLS team to win this competition is because now they have to face against Tigres. And Tigres is going to be very angry heading into the next game. They have not forgotten about them getting beat by Ohio team, and they definitely don't want to get beat by Ohio team again. So yeah, for Cincinnati, it's going to be very interesting when they face a very angry Tigres team that look to try to avoid the upset set again. I mean, anytime when you face against Tigres, it's tough. Tigres has notoriously been one of the giant killer and just an absolute house of pain for MLS team. But now that they're angry after what happened last year, oh boy, good luck Cincinnati in terms of trying to tame the beast known as Tigres in the next round. Now, moving on in terms of the next match. So this is the matchup that featured the upset, and unfortunately for Real Salt Lake, again, I know it's still very early in the season, well, there's got to be a lot of concern if you're a Real Salt Lake fan. I mean, not just from this game, but really from these first three games. It's just been a disastrous start for this RSL team. And I'll tell you, I when I made my prediction in the beginning of the year, I actually bumped RSL a little bit higher in the standings before I make my prediction. For those that don't actually know, I don't think I've explained to that. But I was actually not very high on RSL heading into this season because of all the pieces that they lost heading into this season and the unknown when it comes to all these summer signings that we'll see whether they can step up. There's a lot of concern that this could be a major step back for this RSL team. But I did not imagine what we've seen in these first three games and in this game against Herediano. I mean, they didn't play relatively bad in this game, but they just simply couldn't finish in this one, and they paid the price because of it in this game against Herediano. Now, early on, Iago would miss wide from close range in the fourth minute. Yeah, safe to say that Forster Iago is not the answer for this RSL team. I mean, he wasn't really the answer for Nashville during his time, so I don't think he was the answer for this RSL team either. Henry would then hit it wide from close range before Marchuk would miss wide from long range in the eighth minute. And again, early on, RSL was looking good. They were putting some early pressure. In fact, pretty much for the majority of the first half, it was all RSL in this game. This looked like it was maybe going to be a laugher for RSL, at least with all the pressure that they put early in this game against Herediano. Palacios would then puts it over from long range. The shots were 4-0 for RSL 15 minutes in. Vera would then puts one right to Carvajal before Gonzalez would miss just wide from long range in the 24th minute. But then in the 27th minute, after all the pressure that RSL put, they finally put one in. And it's Iago scoring for Machu to make it 1-0 in favor of RSL. I say Iago is not the answer, and I'm kind of in some way hypocritical myself because he did score the only goal for RSL. But for the most part, he had a lot of chances in this one. He should have scored more than the one goal that he had in this one. Then there was a huge shout for a penalty for RSL as Brooke thought that he was brought down in the box, and I think he was. I mean, when you look back at it, one of the Herediano player when he brought down Brooks in the box, clearly there looked like there was clear contact in terms of that. So yeah, that's a classic example of RSL getting CONCACAF, and RSL got CONCACAF in the last game as well with a corner that probably should have been given instead of a goal kick. And here they got the classic CONCACAF treatment by MLS team. And just another reminder that just because VAR is still in this competition doesn't mean there's still going to be some very questionable calls and bad calls that is going to go their way. I mean, it has gone better, but it's still definitely it is there in this competition. But there's no doubt that RSL continued to press hard to look for the second goal. But we do head to halftime with RSL only leading that fringe 1-0 lead. And I say it's fringe because one goal for Herediano, and now they could be moving on into the next round because remember, RSL didn't score an away goal in the game down in Costa Rica, and that could come back to bite them in a big way late in this game. But in the 48th minute, Hernandez would puts it wide from long range. I thought Herediano start off the half strong. And again, this is where I revert back to my warning of RSL. They got to be careful because if they concede one goal, then they're going to be down on the away goal, and Herediano will move on into the away goal. And again, I've said this before. Whether or not you like the fact that this competition still have away goal compared to all the other major continental competition that has abandoned the away goal, it is what it is. You still have to worry about it. And if you're RSL, if you do give up that away goal, that could be fatal for you. And they thought they did that in the 54th minute because Bravo would put the ball into the back net. But the problem is that they go to VAR to see whether or not if there was a foul on the development of play, and I think it was Iago, the one that was foul on the beginning of the development of play. VAR says yes, and RSL dodged a huge bullet here because in that goal there was just some major defensive lapse, some major defensive breakdown that happened in that back line of RSL, and as I said, they dodged a huge bullet bullet there before the goal, of course, was wiped off. Carvajal then denied Marchuk in the near post before Gonzalez would hit one right to Carvajal in the 64th minute. Safe to say that Carvajal was kind of channeling his Keylor Navas in this one, and I mentioned Keylor Navas because Heredano is a Costa Rican team and Carvajal is Costa Rican after all. It seemed like that disallowed goal, I thought, kind of woke up RSL and again almost act like a wake up call because they need the second goal to try to get themselves some comfort. But then in the 70th minute, really against the run of play, Aguilar would score from Hernandez to tie the game up at one apiece, but most importantly, giving Heredano a big away goal for them to now be the one that is going to move on if this game ends 1-1. And that also came off a brutal turnover from RSL. Yeah, you cannot turn the ball over like that and get away with, especially when you're facing against the best team in Costa Rica. And just like that, the game was tied up at one apiece. And while they were trying to get the game back underway, we saw some pushing and shoving that was happening by both of the team. We haven't seen a lot of that, at least in the first round. I wouldn't be surprised we might see it more in the second round, especially when we see MOS versus the MX kind of competition. But yeah, that was again, for RSL, they didn't need to do that. They need to get things back underway because now that they gave up the away goal, they need to score a goal to move on into the next round. And really, as the time winds down, RSL was trying to do so, but the problem was they were looking really poor in the final third. Now, part of that is because Heredano pretty much put up a wall of defense. Like they were parking the bus, they were trying to hang on to this 1-1 draw to send them to the next round because of away goal. But it also doesn't help when again Carvajal in this one, he pretty much channeled his inner Keylor Navas, and he absolutely robbed Vera on a header full stretch there in the 87th minute. Henry then hits it wide from close in the 5th minute of stoppage time, and then in the 7th minute of stoppage time, a penalty was given to Heredano after Cabral brought down Vera in the box. So it was pretty much a breakaway there, or as they say in hockey, an on-man rush there. That Vega basically went in on goal. Cabral had to do something into it, trying to make the challenge instead bring Vega down. So that pretty much allowed Vega to take this penalty. I mean, in many ways, they didn't need to take that penalty because that two-leg affair was all decided. But Vega makes sure of it, and also we will not see a repeat of the Watford situation that we saw, that famous Watford Leicester game that we saw in the playoff. That maybe that could be something that RSL could rely on. Didn't happen because Vega put the ball into the back in it, and yeah, just like that, Heredano not only move on into the next round, but they beat RSL on the road. It's been a while since I've seen a team in Central America able to beat a MLS team. I think last time that happened, didn't Olympia did that to Seattle a couple of years ago, if I'm not mistaken. But in many ways, that's a big upset that Heredano just had against RSL. And the shots in this one, I mean, 28 shots compared to three, or actually five. Actually, I did the math wrong here because 2 plus 1 plus 2 does not equal 3. But 28 shots compared to just 5 that Heredano has, but only 5 of them was on target in this one. So that just kind of shows you the fact that despite RSL had tons of shots in this one, they weren't putting it on target most of it. In fact, 9 shots off target to 1 that Heredano has, 11 shots that was blocked with the 2 that Heredano has, and possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that Heredano has in this game. And like I said, for RSL, there's got to be a lot of concern. And the goal scoring is a big concern for this team because again, when you lose some key player like Chicho Arango this offseason, and you're also not going to have the guy you brought in Elias Manuel because he decided not to show up to training because of certain clause, and now they sold him off back to Brazil as well. Unless if they think about signing a 9, and I think they probably need to sign a 9 sooner or later. This could be a long season for this RSL team. I think my original calculation about this RSL team, where I'm not really too high on this team, and my concern with the goal scoring is starting to show in these three games, because the fact that they only scored 1 goal in these last 3 games, and just fresh off of just getting embarrassed by the team that finished dead last season on the road, and now losing at home to Maradona is a good team. As I said, they are the best team in Costa Rica. They're currently at the top of the standings. I'm not going to disrespect them, but this is a game that RSL should have won. They absolutely should have won this game, and the lack of finishing and the lack of goal scoring of this team is got to be a huge concern for this team, even going back into league play as well. With that being said, I am now going to switch board and look at the last game to finish off last night's action in the second leg of the CONCACAF Champions Cup in the first round. So as I said before, pretty much two out of these three teams involving MLS team against Central American opposition is all but over. This was another one of those games, but unlike when Cincinnati drawing to a Honduran side, Seattle actually beat the Guatemalan side in this one. And unlike Cincinnati kind of resting their players, Seattle didn't really quite do so in this game. I mean, albeit they did put up some of their backup brigade in this one, but for the most part, it was still a pretty strong Sounders team, and as a result, they once again win 3-1 in this game against Antigua. Now, in the first half, the first 4 minutes, I have no idea what happened because the stream of this game didn't start until the 4 minute. I mean, all of these games were on FS2, so yeah, they by the time they finished that RSL Herediano game, they had to play some commercial because Fox Sport reason. And by the time that finished, this game is already into the 4th minute. Luckily, there wasn't really much that happened in the 4th minute. In the 9th minute, Fiera with the first shot of the game as he looking to score again with the first shot, but he missed high there. And just like the first leg, I thought the Sounders were on the front foot. They were pressing for the opening goal. The shots were 4-1 for Seattle 20 minutes in, and then their fifth shot in the 24th minute, it's in the back of the net. It's Pedro de la Vega. Something tells me he's definitely have something to prove, and not only to just try to stay healthy, but kind of prove that the amount that the Sounders pay him was worth the amount because he scored here to make it 1-0 in favor of the Sounders. They did briefly check to see whether or not if Morris was on an onside position on the development play. VAR says yes. So therefore the goal stands and the Sounders have a 1-0 lead and more importantly 4-1 in the aggregate score. Romero did look to respond for Antigua, but it was blocked. Hernandez then hits one right to Thomas in the 31st minute. So I say, Seattle didn't rest a lot of guys. They did at least rest Stephen Fry, and Andrew Thomas was in this game for the Sounders. And then Morris thought that he put the ball into the back net, but unfortunately this time he was in an offside position. So the goal was disallowed for offside. Thomas then denied Apalazo from close range as both of these teams were getting some good chances near goal. Things then at times I also thought that was very open. It can become very end to end at time as well, which is something I usually don't say about a Sounders game because likes to play things very tight at times. Rodon would then was in on goal there, but it was a crucial tackle for behind that put the ball behind for a corner. Reagan would then miss an absolute sitter from close range. Yeah, that is one that Jackson Reagan would like to have back, and one that the Sounders would regret because just 1 minute later, Antigua would tie the game up. It's Galvez. He scored from Hernandez to tie the game up at one apiece, and the aggregate score was now at 4-2. So again, this is where maybe there's a little bit of doubt if you're a Sounders fan that now it's within in two, and Antigua can score two more goals and make it 3-1, then we're gonna go to extra time. But we do head to halftime with the score tied at one apiece. In the second half, Moron would denying De La Vega, who was wide open in the box. So yeah, De La Vega probably could have had a hat trick in this game as well if he put away that chance. That was probably the best chance that he had and probably the easiest chance compared to those two chances that he had in front of goal. Muswowski then puts one over the bar on the volley, despite also having a pretty much an empty net. The Sounders are getting some golden opportunity, but the question is, can they finish and can they get that lead back in this game? The answer is yes, because in the 53rd minute, Areola would score again in this two-leg affair. And it's that same combination, Areola from Fiera, to make it 2-1 in favor of Seattle. Unlike the first leg, there was no deflection in this goal. This was purely a goal that Areola struck cleanly to put the ball into the back of the net. Flores did look to answer, but he missed wide there before he hits one right to Thomas at the hour mark. The shots were 12-10 for the Sounders, so there was a fair amount of shots for both of these teams. This was not like the other game we saw against Herediano, or even the game that Montegra played against Cincinnati, where MLS team may be a little bit lopsided in terms of the shots total. Muswowski then puts it over from close in the 63rd minute before Rothrock was in on goal there, but he only puts one right to Moron. Sounders, despite having the lead, they were still pressing hard to try to get a third goal, and they probably should have got that third goal if they didn't waste these big missed opportunities that they have. And this is also where if you're a Sounders fan, I know even if Antigua tie in this game, it wouldn't matter. But maybe some Sounders fan might have some uneasy feeling of what happened in the last game against Charlotte when they don't put the game away, and they end up giving up two points as a result of it. But Santis would then miss wide from close in the 78th minute, and then the post denying Fernandez on a looping header. And again, this is just like what we saw in the last game against Charlotte. Although in this case, unlike the one against Charlotte where they didn't give up a lot of chance, they did actually give up a fair amount of chance to Antigua. And again, to Antigua credit, they were still playing hard, trying to get a tie, which is just as big of an accomplishment for a Central American or a Guatemalan team as you can get. But unfortunately, it didn't happen because in the 88th minute, Pedro de la Vega turns lights out in this game as he scored from João Paulo to make it 3-1 in favor of the Sounders, and that would be the final score of this game. And the shots in this game not only was relatively even, Antigua actually outshot Seattle in this one. 17 shots for the 16 that the Sounders had, 6 shots on goal compared to 5 that Antigua has. 5 shots off target compared to 4 that the Sounders had. 6 shots that was blocked compared to 5 that Antigua has. And possession-wise, 61% possession compared to 39% possession that Antigua has in this game. So just like what I said about Cincinnati, this was relatively easy meat for the Sounders to beat their Central American team. But the next round is where it really started to get tough because now they're going to be facing against Cruz Azul. And, I don't know. I need to look back in terms of how the Clausura season is going on for Cruz Azul right now. But it's never easy when an MLS team face against a Liga MX team, and especially this is a team that I predict to go one of the deepest in this tournament, even though they probably have the toughest road out of any MLS team to get to that final. That next round is going to be a telling story, and again, we'll see whether or not they can go on a Columbus Crew type of run last year as well. I mean, I did say the Sounders team can do that, and after really seeing these last couple of games, they can kind of prove that they can definitely go deep in this tournament and having a similar run to what we saw the Columbus Crew in their last season all the way to the final. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you like, smash the subscribe button. As always, let me know in the comments below what do you think of these free games. As I mentioned, there's going to be one more game that's going to be happening later tonight, and Vancouver's going to have to win that game against Saprissa if they want to move on into the next round, knowing that they're down in the aggregate score, and they might need to win more than 2 goals if they do give up 2 goals to Saprissa, that is. But either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, make sure you guys leave a like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.